Ya Ali Madad, and welcome back to the Global Music Lesson series. This is our second music lesson where we will learn to name the black notes on the keyboard keys. In our last session, we discovered the 7 musical alphabets A, B, C, D, E, F and G, forming the foundation of our musical journey. Today we will explore the names of the black keys on the keyboard. Before we proceed, let's quickly recap our previous lesson. We learnt about an octave consisting of 12 notes with 5 black and 7 white keys. The octave begins with C, a white note just before the 2 black keys, and the musical alphabets continues its order as C, D, E, F, G, and then A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and it continues. First we need to learn about half steps. So think of half steps as ascending or descending a staircase. It involves moving through all 12 notes on the keyboard. So as we said that, all the 12 notes in an octave. So these are half steps. So we are playing all the notes. If I ask you, if you are on C, so what will be a half step forward from C? So very good, very good. And what will be a half step forward from D? What will be a half step forward from E? What will be a half step forward from F? A half step forward from G? A half step forward from A? And what will be half step forward from A? And what will be half step forward from B? Very good. And same goes with half step backward. So if I ask you, what will be the half step backward from C? Very nice. What will be a half step backward from B? What will be a half step backward from A? What will be a half step backward from G? What will be a half step backward from F? What will be a half step backward from E? And what will be a half step backward from D? That's excellent. Now we are ready to understand about sharps and flats. So the sharp is when it's a half step forward or raised by a half step, and flat means when it's lowered by a half step. So let's explore this. So as I demonstrated you, from C, so raised by a half step, this first black note makes it C sharp, and lowered from C, lowered by a half step, makes it a C flat. So if I ask you, where do you find C sharp on the keyboard? So you just simply go and find C and a half step raised, The first black note is C sharp. Now, another example. If you are on the note D and you see D sharp, so where will be the D sharp? So D sharp will be D and raised by a half step, means the second black note on the keyboard in an octave, it's D sharp. And if you see D flat, this small b in superscript is called flat. This lowercase b in the superscript is called flat. So means D, and you're going to lower by a half step, means this first black note. Now let's take the example of E. So E sharp would be E raised by a half step. So this would be E sharp, and E flat would be lowered by a half step from E. So this means the second black. If we take the example of note F, so F sharp would be raised by a half step, means third black key, and F lowered by a half step means the third white key. Now G. So G sharp would be raised by a half step, the fourth black note on the keyboard, and G flat, G lowered by a half step means the third black key. Now if we talk about A, so A sharp means raised by a half step, means the fifth black note, and A flat would mean lowered by a half step, would be fourth black note on the keyboard octave. And now B. So if we say B sharp, so the next octave C would come as B sharp, and if we say B flat, so lowered by a half step, that means fifth black note. You must have observed that with sharps and flats, so now you must have observed and noticed that every black note has two names, one with flat and one with sharp. So this first black note with reference to C can be named as C sharp, and with reference to D it can be named as D flat. Depends on the scale and notes that we are going to explore in our lessons ahead. Now this second black note can be named as, with reference to D, it's D sharp, and with reference to E, it's E flat. Now this is E, and this can be referred as E sharp and E flat. With reference to F, the third black note would be F sharp, and with reference to G, it would be G flat. With reference to G, this fourth black note, this fourth black note is G sharp, and with reference to E, A. With reference to A, this fourth black note is A flat. And lastly, with reference to A, this black note will be called A sharp, and with reference to B, this black note will be called B flat. Now we'll step forward. We learnt about half steps, and now we're going to talk about whole steps. Whole steps means skip and next. So unlike in half steps, we took every note that come in between, but here we're going to skip and next. So for example, you are on the note C, we're going to skip this and we'll take the next. So from 1 and 3, C and D, there is a note in between. So we, instead of going from C to C sharp or D flat, we skipped and we moved to the next natural note, that is D. Like here we are on the E note. So from E, the half step is F, this 6-1, but we were going to skip and take one step forward. So this is the whole step. So whole step means skip and next, and half step means without skipping, taking every note that comes in between. Let us take one more example. If we are on D, so from D, the whole step will be skip the next note and then next one. So skip and next. So this is a whole step. So whole step always has a note in between. So today we learnt about sharps and flats. These are called accidentals in music theory. Sharp means raised by a half step and flat means lowered by a half step from any natural note. Thank you.